We are welcoming Hyppolite to Coffee with a Purpose this morning. I was asking Ian yesterday, I had it in my mind that you had come to Coffee with a Purpose some number of years ago, and maybe that was how you and Carol and Carrie all became acquaintances, but he said no, so I guess I got it wrong. But I know you have a fascinating life story, and we're just anxious to hear what you've been up to lately, and anything else you would like to share with us. So I think maybe it would help, since there are a bunch of us that you don't know. We usually spend just a little time doing this. We'll just go around real quickly and introduce ourselves. Elaine, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, Elaine Ostroff. I'm relatively new to Natick. I've just been here for about 6 years. I'm Josh's mother, and he and his wife have been in Natick for close to 40 years. He's a selectman. I've been involved with social justice issues, most of my grown-up life, and I'm so eager and pleased to hear from Hippo. So good morning.
Thank you. And Martin?
Yeah, I'm Martin Kessel. Actually, Elaine was just asking when we came to Natick. It's actually 66 years, although there have been periods when we haven't lived in Natick as well, not continuous. And somehow I'm involved in every committee in town, it seems like. Open Space Committee, the Charles River Dam Committee, the Elliott School Committee, and of course, town meeting.
Thank you.
And
Bill?
CPA.
And the CPA.
And CPA, yeah.
There you go.
Right. Community Preservation Act, yeah.
Right.
Bill?
Hi, Bill Ramage. I'm relatively new to Natick, 8 years. I guess that makes me a newbie around here. And I've been active in environmental issues and with my church, and most recently became a town meeting member and asked my first question last time. So trying to get involved with local politics.
Cool. Carrie, I know you two know each other, but whatever, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been here, let's see, actually 19 years ago tomorrow will be when I signed a P&S for this house that I'm residing in now. I've known Hippo for a couple of years anyway. He's a force on the basketball court, I can tell you that. We've had some good games and a couple good bike rides together. Yeah, he's a great friend.
Great. Thanks. And Ricky?
Carol Berkowitz and I go back about 50 years at least. You've been at least that long, and I've been involved in an awful lot of things. I'm pleased to say I was the first select woman in the town of Natick's history, and that is a source of great pride because I am a Holocaust survivor, an immigrant to this country. And to be accepted in that way and given a position of responsibility has meant a great deal to me in my life. I've been involved in the beginnings of the Lake Cochituate Watershed Association, involved in transportation. I'm the Natick Housing Authority. I'm a town meeting member, and we've been here. In September, it will be 65 years.
Wow.
Now you're a great grandmother, right?
Yeah, that's right. I got a new great granddaughter 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Yes. Her name is Alexandra Scott. So,
Great.
Nice.
Thank you. Carol? Well, just for
Hyppolite and I have been friends, for several years, and we did actually, it was through Coffee with a Purpose, a woman named Cheryl Peralt,
Right.
who I was introduced to her. She invited me to something she was doing in Hopkinton. I went there, and then there I met Alan O'Hare, who's an Irish storyteller and had been mentoring Hyppolite when he was in Boston in 2016 with Arts Connect International. So one thing led to another and a little talk with Alan, and he handed me this email of Hyppolite. And so that's how it started. And yeah, and it's been wonderful ever since. I consider him my soulmate. And yeah, I love him. That's all.
I have a feeling we are all going to love him by the end of this talk, but great. Thank you. Pat?
Good morning. I think Hyppolite and I met before a year or so ago, and he was at Common Street Spiritual Center, and so inspirational to all of us. And my sister Sally and Carol have been trying to keep up with you, Hyppolite, and all your great activities. I'm in the 50-year club, I guess, as far as Natick is concerned. And I've been involved in a bunch of stuff. I'm mostly a trash trails and Earth Day guy, I guess.
Keeping
battling
Native beautiful.
single-use plastic and all these things. I have a lot of bumps and bruises from some of those little campaigns. I was once a town meeting member and et cetera, et cetera. But I've scaled back a bit in the last few years to work on a few family things. So, but I'm delighted to be here this morning and great to see you, Hyppolite.
Great. And Tom?
Yeah, I'm a new member of town meeting. I've been a Natick resident for 30 years. I'm an active in Natick for Black Lives Matter. And I was very happy Thursday night that the CPA got approved.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
Excellent.
sure Ricky was happy too.
Oh, thrilled. We got a great vote.
Thank you. And Brinley, you're on mute at the moment, but there you go.
Good morning, I'm Brinley. I've been in Natick for 21 years now. I was pretty much raised as an activist. I took a bunch of years off from being really active to have kids. And now I'm getting back into it. And I'm also a newly elected town meeting member. And I'd worked with the recycling committee for over 10 years, like 12 years or something like that. But happy to participate today. Nice to meet you.
Thanks. And Cheryl, as you can hear, we're just doing introductions.
So I am Cheryl Peralt, coming from Hopkinton. I'm a friend of Natick and Common Street Spiritual Center. I used to work in Natick with the schools as a psychologist many years ago, and also have loved being a part of Common Street spiritual events. And also really wanted to say hello and hear Hyppolite speak today.
Great.
Hi, Hyppolite.
Thank you. And my lovely wife, Sarah.
I'm Sarah Hanna. We've been here in Natick about 40 years. We're both retired now. I've spent my career in the hazardous waste site cleanup business, and environmental issues have always been near and dear to my heart. And through our church, I've gotten a lot more interested in the more recent years when our kids have been grown, and in working on some social justice issues as well. So
What she said. That's why I always let her introduce herself first. So. All right. Well, with that, Bo, let me turn it over to you. Lovely to have you join us today from across the pond, as we say, right? Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much. But I think many, not many, but some of you have heard me speak before, and today I thought we could talk about the work that Be the Pieces, the organization, have been setting up since 2016. We've been doing, and I expect questions from any question we would try together and get some answers. But Can I make sure that the voice is being transmitted? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, we
Good.
can hear you well.
It's good.
Thanks. Yeah. So I don't know. I can. I thought I could share some. I could use some slides that that would be.
That'd be great.
And then I think I would do.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can see your screen. Yeah.
And if I do this, I think it's. Is it? Yeah. So.
Yep.
Yep, good.
This is the work I'm going to talk about. Again, all my work is really informed by my experiences at my early age that I had when I was a kid. I think that the genocide against the Tutsi that took place and in 1994 took lives of my many people from my extended family, including my dad, who's directly member of my family. And so it informs my everyday life and my everyday work. And that gave me the entry point in life where I think I have to work to stop the intergenerational transmission of hate, which was a result, or which resulted into the genocide against the Tutsi. Luckily, I survived it with many, but also many people were killed. So, the whole struggle of trying to find peace and trying to know what peace is and trying to know why would neighbors turn to another neighbor, kill them, or why would hate be something that becomes subconsciously or consciously a value to, no, I would call it value, but it's not value, but it's something that an experience that people work with in everyday life instead of love or peace. And that's what the search for all the answer for those questions led me to found Be the Peace, and it's an organization or movement, whatever it's called. What matters is what we do. So I've been doing it. I started with the arts, but now now it's more becoming the work to do with community building. So, little bit about the genocide. I mean, I won't go into the history of what happened before 1994 about Rwanda. Of course, the history doesn't start in 1994, but these are some numbers of numbers in the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. So over the course of 100 days, an estimated more than 1 million people were killed. This means during the period, more than 6 men, women, and children were murdered every minute of every hour of every day. So every minute, 6 people were killed in 100 days. And between 250 and 500,000 women were raped in those 100 days, and approximately 300,000 children were murdered during the genocide. 95,000 children were left orphaned, and after the genocide, over 120,000 were suspected to have been involved in the genocide. And so the 75% of primary and secondary school teachers had been killed, fled, or were in prison. So you can imagine a system which has that kind of problems. And all these experiences, all these numbers, why do they matter? Why do they inform? Why do they matter? Why does this history matter to me? It's because in everything that is talked about here was directly directly one of my experiences, either seeing, I saw all this happening and I lived the consequences of this 100 days. And I live with it. The nightmares of it are still with me even today. And that's what informs my work that I'm doing today. And it's an experience that you can never, it's an experience that you can never say it goes away or you forget. It lives with me every day. Yesterday, no, 2 days ago, on 29th was my birthday, but I don't celebrate my birthday because within this history, on the 30th of April, in the night of the 29th, in the night of when I was born, of my birthday, it's when many of the children that I lived with as a child slave for killers were killed. Luckily, that night I escaped. So I don't celebrate. I take time to reflect on them. So every day, in every minute, every day, the sun, the voice of anyone, the rain, the greenery, the hill, everything reminds me of these 100 days, all post-genocide time. So it's it is in everyday life. That's why I do what I do. But okay, so with the Be the Peace and trying to work on the stopping the intergenerational transmission of hate, because it's this happened because of the government taught in the history of discrimination, in the history of genocide ideology that was taught for a long time before 1994. And that led to this tragedy of the recent history. And so Be the Peace, what we try to do, what Be the Peace is trying to do and how it's trying to work. I'm personally going to talk about things that have been happening in Rwanda. So I'm standing on the photos. You can see I'm standing. There's a photo where I was walking. This is 2019 when I was doing a 100-day walk around Rwanda, walking for every day that genocide took place across Rwanda, sleeping in people's home. I was trying to see if, I was trying to say, well, at 25 then, in 2019, it was 25th anniversary of remembering the genocide. I was trying to see what it is like to live in Rwanda at 25 years after the genocide. How does it happen? What do I do if I enter in a church where people were killed? What happens if I meet people as a stranger? What happened? And that's what I wanted to do. And I traveled across Rwanda with people. Dylan Cuddy, a friend from the US, came with me, took photos, all these photos for 100 days. He worked with me. I'm standing on one photo. I am standing between a young man in a blue t-shirt and a man who's in his 50s, 60s. And that photo reminds me of lots of things. So through Be the Peace program, we were able to bring together these two people, and it's one of the example of things we have done. The two people I'm standing in between, the young man in blue t-shirt family was killed by this man on the right, and they, through our program of reaching out, they were able to, this man was charged and was sentenced. He finished his sentences, I think many years in prison, came back in the community. So reaching out to them, bringing them together, and we do what? You see, we are standing close to a garden with cabbages. So this is a fruit garden, a vegetable garden that they and the community built together. Now, whether they share those vegetables that get done through in the garden. So, and we are standing in the man who committed genocide, in his house, in his backyard, and in a young man's family or backyard, they also have one vegetable garden. So we do those activities. We have built a lot. I will go into the numbers, but these are examples of things we do. And some of the people have met their perpetrators or the people who wanted to kill them. Now 28 years ago, they meet them through our programs. We try to bring them together, not only them, but their young descendants. And so that's one example of what Be the Peace have been doing. And we believe through these activities, we have seen really amazing stories happening. We're probably going to go to them. Second, I would talk about how do we go about it? How do we get into the community? What we do is, again, the genocide denial, the genocide ideology is still around, and it's transmitted from one generation to another through different socializations process, including schools, including community, and that's what we do. We go into those spaces where we find people, and that's where we go, where we start with, and that's where we bring people together through. And you can see we do some art programs in schools, and you can see on photos the school children were acting, were showing the lives of what they live, what they do. And on the top photo, you will see young people who were doing a community activity. In these young people includes people from survivors' family, young people from perpetrators' family, and people who they were doing a community activity. They were building a house for one of the people in the community. So we bring them in the community to work together, and then we do talks. On the down, so you can see one house that we have built as a Be the Peace program on the top right for me. So you can also see down the people who were planting a tree. One, the same story. One, I'm in between the people. One young man who was of my age, but his family killed the person on the right. The family members of the person on the right, the man on the right. What happened is that young man, through the program, they came together. They're now friends. They're now friends, and we gave them a cow. They now take turn in milking the cow, and the idea is that they will give the cow to another family when and it goes, instead of transmitting other things of hate and things. So we trying to give meaningful things that help them to live would say economically better, and that reminds them in their everyday life that there's something beautiful to live instead of to transmit instead of hate. So same thing, we have values that we work with. We work with unity, forgiveness, empathy, responsibility, and we understand that without all this, we will not be able to achieve what we want to do. You can see people doing the gardens I talked about earlier. And this program is interpersonal, but also inter-community, where the groups and the people, individuals come together, and we see that as bringing the generations together, but also trying to revive the empathy that was lost, that get lost in our everyday suffering problems or consequences. So what have we done recently? We have done talks, we have done conversations, we have planted trees, we've given different cows to different families. We've brought people together through those, but some numbers, so 130 families have vegetable gardens in different districts. 243 families participate, and that includes young people and people who were born after genocide, because now some of them have gone on building their own families. And we have survivors, perpetrators in that. We started microfinance as a program. We started a microfinance this January. And what we have done, we have asked people to submit the project through groups, and they have submitted projects. And after submitting projects, the community themselves selected the projects that will be funded. These are not big projects, but it means a lot because one project was funded, some projects were funded by like $100. And some of them are selling eggs, some of them are growing chicken, some of them, and those are things that help them to come together, and they're responsible, they're responsible for each other. And when they are finished for 6 months, they pay weekly something like $5 to every 2 weeks. When they finish, the money will be given to other projects, and that's how we started. It was sponsored by one of the people in this meeting today, which is really, really amazing. 16 families have been given cows, and we have, I think it's more than 16, I think it's around 20 now, cows were given and why cows? So apart from the whole big government program, but cows in Rwanda is a big meaning thing. And in Rwandan rituals, someone who gave you milk, you never give them blood. It's a saying, and that means if someone gives you milk, it's a friendship, it's a pact for friendship forever. And that's why we're reviving these values through all this program. And they do monthly community work. We do radio drama that I'm now writing, and there's a link that I'm looking for the. I'm now working on a radio drama, and there's a link on Just Giving that we're raising funds because we're doing a community radio drama which is based on trust rebuilding, which is another project probably I will talk about in a bit. But this is a bit of where we have been working and forward. This photo you see is a photo of the land that is acquired through, again, individual sponsorship. This is the land where we plan to build a peace center. It's in Rwanda, 35-minute drive from the main city, Kigali, but maybe 10-minute drive from the main new or being built airport. But so it's in a very meaning place where this lake knows a lot about the genocide. Many people were killed and thrown in this lake. Some people survived by going into this lake and go somewhere and be able to hide. This land is acquired. We probably need more to extend it, but at least we have where to start with. The next land to it that needs expansion is requiring $22,000, but if we acquire it or not, we think we have something to work with. But again, sponsored by one of the people you are with today in the meeting. The Peace Center, I hope it will be worldwide, but this is where my vision is, where the vision of this Peace Center is really to do programs based on community, on the arts, on broadcasting, peace programs. And that's important because, you know, we have all mainstream media and programs that are that stands in the centers or institutes that stand for different things. But you go in different centers and different communities or different countries, you don't find peace centers a lot. Even some of them are failing because of funding. And so we shouldn't let that money be a problem. We shouldn't let the money just stop us from doing what we're doing. Maybe if we don't even find money to build a center, we will make it, we put chairs in that land like that and people will come and talk. And so we hope that will not be the problem, but hopefully we find funders, donors and funders and who will believe in this. Trust building is based on the research I'm doing, and I'm doing a research on trust, rebuilding trust in post-violence community. And this is what I'm doing PhD in Coventry, and I'm looking at trust building, trust rebuilding in 2 dimensions, vertical and horizontal. But what does that mean? I'm looking trust as the only way that I'm proposing that trust is the only way we can have, or a community can have, the sustainable peace building or peace processes. And what I'm trying to see, what I'm trying to do is I'm evaluating where Rwanda is in what Rwanda have done or they are doing, or what ways they think trust is being rebuilt. And I'm looking at trust building between the people, the communities, the so-called ordinary, but I think they are extraordinary people, the normal citizens. How are they building trust between them, and how are they building the trust between actually the government that only people changed, but the government is still the government even after the genocide. So there's I'm looking at how trust has been built, or in which way we can build trust in the post-violence or something like post-genocide communities. And that's all this is informing the way we be the peace we continue to work. Worldwide, I think peace and be the peace is not doesn't have territory, it doesn't have political party, it's not a politics, it's not a territory thing, it's not religion or a church, it's the act, it's what we do. We don't define it as whatever mainstream calling names. We define it as what we do, and we believe peace is only available if we give it, not when we ask about it or when we ask others to give us peace. So we work like that, and that's what we say. And it starts with, it can be individual, it can be community, and what we do is what we see as peace, not what we ask others to do as peace. No, yeah. So that's, and that we believe that, you know, everyone among ourselves has gone under trauma or violence, as experience of trauma or violence or anything that have or hate. And those are 3 important things that we meet in our everyday life, that we meet in our experiences. And we were trying to say, well, how can we make sure that we don't transmit anything like trauma, violence, or hate? And that's what we're doing. And that's what I have been up to since probably some of you met me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the questions, and it's just like maybe thought-provoking or questions, incitement, welcoming questions. And thank you very much for listening to me. And, you know, sorry, I'm sure more information can be shared, but I think the conversations will bring more out of us all here together today. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Absolutely fascinating. I don't even know where to begin with questions. I guess one, I'm not really even sure how to ask this, but for either maybe for victims of the genocide, I mean, you have your own personal story, but for others, how do you convince someone to start on that journey towards reconcilement, and that being the peace is the way, particularly when you say it's not, it doesn't go to any particular religion or political persuasion. So, you know, in this, we might say, what's your elevator speech? You know, what, how do you get people to start moving in that direction if they're not inclined to do so?
So yes, it's a hard thing, and peace building or trust building or anything building is a process, and we all have different experiences. When we have an experience like genocide or violence against a community, or an experience like racism or other things, we have collective trauma or collective experiences, but we also have individual experiences. And you can only know that if you approach a person or a family or a community. That's where you know, and the art has been very useful in that sense. We do talks, and sometimes we go in the community and we tell people to draw things that they remember and share. We do the process of storytelling. We approach and say, okay, and it doesn't start like a collective. Sometimes it starts with collective, bringing people together. There was a time where we brought people together. We invited people individually, telling there is a meeting about peace. And I would bring people together in a room. No one knew who is invited. They came. They were at the sector office. This is in East Rwanda. And we were in a district called Kayonza. So we sit in a room, and the person, the host from Be the Peace, introduces people and say, here we have people who have served their sentences and they're back in the community for the crimes of genocide, and we have survivors. The trauma came really out from one participant. She couldn't stand that. She's sitting in a room with people who tried to kill her or who killed her families and them. So the way you did, at least that was, we knew what was, at least that showed us an issue. And you always have an icebreaker. You always have something of course, we start with, every community is different. Every person is different. And the way we work, we have facilitators in the communities. Some are young, some are women, some are men, and they reach out. And after the art, and we do arts program, and we have community theater that we say, or we have playback theater, and people visit them, and then we act the stories of them, and as a way of saying, and then we ask them, is this really the experiences you live? They come out and they start speaking out. And then sometimes we ask, so what do you want next step? What do you want from these people? And then they tell us. We go visit them, we ask their experiences, and then we act those experiences in a whole large group. And then someone will say, oh yeah, now, so it's kind of linking their consciousness before linking them physically. And then through all those processes, we bring them together. So art has been very useful, and also the management of approaching people individually has been also very important. So through those activities, and sometimes we will be doing a garden, and after the garden building, someone will say, well, I feel like I need to say something. And they will stand up and say, I'm sorry, I've done some, and the crimes of people have done, we don't know. But we sometimes we think we know someone will come back from prison, but we never have said who he killed or who she killed or what she has done or what he has done. But through our program, we can see that people are now speaking out. What we do is trying to let people speak out, helping them to tell their trauma and tell what they have done and tell what they're leaving. And we have seen people working. So art has been very important, but also knowing that there's a collective process and there's individual process. Doesn't happen at the same scale. Some of them don't even want to come to our conversation sometimes, which is fine. So there's a lot to be done, and that's why we continue doing it. So I would say, and community differ from community. What happens in the North is not what happens in the South, and because the scale and the experiences of trauma and healing processes have been different. Sometimes you have someone who's rich. I take back that word, who's probably economically well off, and someone who's probably struggling with economical sustainability. You will find that the way to approach them is different. It's hard to tell someone come in a community work when they haven't had enough food last night. So we try, and that's why we have different programs to help. They're not enough, but at least we try.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't want to monopolize things. Who's got a question or some comments or feedback? Sally.
Good morning. Hi, Hyppolite.
Hello.
It's such a pleasure to see you. My spirit is lifted 100% by looking at that beautiful venue on your last slide of a peace center next to that lake. I mean, it's like something, bestowed for a wonderful, wonderful reason to get, mobilization of villages and people. But the whole concept of having something lovely and large in that vista is a very inspired idea. That is phenomenal. What in practical ways are you accepting donations, or how are you going to mobilize that?
Yeah, that's a hard question. But so the donations have been done. All these activities, they have been funded through 20% of my whatever salary I've been getting since 2016, and individual donations. I know she hates it, but I have to mention Carol Berkowitz, who have been very, very helpful in doing lots of all these things and acquiring land and different other donations, cows, and that microfinance program that I mentioned. She's been very, very helpful. And other different people, Sally, yourself, there have been individual donations. Now, I have been kind of fundraising I've been carefully not putting out public fundraising, because the way it has been, the way Be the Peace has been operating hasn't been really, we don't have enough resources for people who are working. Some of them are volunteers, some of them like it. They only work because they like it. So, and again, it's not very well structured in terms of the global way, but there are like, for now, there's a Just Giving website that I can put in the chat where we are raising for the radio drama. And so everything it is going through depending on program we are. For the Peace Center, I think the launch for fundraising will happen in 2024 when I have an artistic program I plan to do for 100 days, and I will be in a dark tent for 100 days in Rwanda. And I will do that. It's already really exciting. I plan to have a dark tent, but the idea is to tell people light is the only light that exists is within us. We can be light even in the dark places. And so that's what I'll be doing. And I think that's when I will start openly fundraising. I'm now writing papers and, pitching and kind of, the strategic way of trying to fundraise. And that's what I'm doing leading up to 2024. That's a beginning of the big Peace Center fundraising. But before then, people are donating. We're working in a way that people trust what we're doing, and people who believe in what we're doing are donating and are visiting these activities in Rwanda. And without even us being involved, they can do whatever they want. But they now ongoing fundraising is just giving online for the radio drama.
Yes, please definitely put that in the chat. So folks, maybe you already have. I see something's in there. That's a good question, Sally. I was wondering it myself. That 100 days in darkness sounds fascinating. Do you want? Yeah.
Yeah, I would send you the link about the 100 days in darkness. I'm contacting people who will do the tent, and the tent will be really like walking in Rwanda. I think it will artistically have like tunnels where you can go in, have conversation. People will come and join me for days or times or hours, talk, have conversations. It will not be completely just dark, but again, the designing process is ongoing, but I will be there. I plan to do walks in the night and people will join. So it's all a big thing plan. So you will know about it. Yes.
Yeah, I'm fascinated that so many of your activities focus on artistic expression of it. It seems like maybe the success of that is because it connects with people more deeply than just words can. But I know reading in your book, you said there was one of your teachers had first suggested to you that you try to tell your story via a play or something that you wrote.
Yeah, I find the arts is the only language that can connect with everyone, that can speak with everyone, and that can be listened to, so it's a very good tool, and reflects the feelings, and that's why we used it.
Who else has Pat, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you. Yes, Hyppolite, I have a quick question for you. In terms of what we've seen in the last 2 months of the incredible, horrible, and destructive war in Europe and Ukraine, and just what your view of that might be, and the oppression and the destruction, and people's lives, and people being forced out of their home, fleeing, and just kind of we could use some of your advice.
Yeah, well, it's a big thing. I at no way I would ever in life support war. Never ever. I would never ever support war. I don't support war. I don't support, and I'm talking about war in terms of whoever is involved in making it happen. I don't like whoever is fueling the war by giving weapons or by inviting people to donate weapons or by it's just really horrible to see. And I'm not talking I support who or who. I'm just saying the war that is happening, it's so bad that today people with their power, with their whatever claim that they make, with the power, with the passion of saving people, they're only using heavier and heavier and heavier weapons trying to save people. It's in pacifist idea world that people think about. I think many people would not agree with me. I know what weapons do. Weapons do not save people. Weapons kill people. Of course, who used weapons? Again, you would say to counter that, we use weapons. Does it make it better? No, it doesn't. It makes it a war. Would someone let someone, if you are attacked by a weapon, what do? You get it and then keep quiet? That's a question for everyone to answer. I think, again, come back to the point of what I said. I stand for peace as something you give, not what you ask others to give you. So that's what the lenses of my eyes see. I question if someone is saying to one person or one country, give us peace, or we will fight, or what you put in the fuel is what the flame becomes. So I wish that we didn't go to, I wish that we would not have seen Russia invading Ukraine. I wish that all parties, whoever is involved, the US, the NATO, Russia, Ukraine, were all had the heart to say, no, we're not going to have war. Whoever is involved, no matter what, whoever made that possible, whoever didn't do whatever it requires to stop the war, whether it's Putin, whether it's who, I think it's a horrible thing to see. And I would sometimes people compare power to the win. Whoever is winning, whoever will win, there will always be something transmitted by that win. I would want to see win-win people saying, okay, we're not losing, but we are saving lives. And I don't think anything that is happening or anything that is happening tomorrow will be about saving lives. It's more about that, and that's where the individual part of peace comes in. And I know probably I will not fight with. I can't stop the war, but I'm inviting everyone to be at peace in whatever way. You might not go in a war. You might not go and stop and kill and whatever, but you might probably teach your kid, this is not good. That's not good. Whatever you tell your kid, whatever you tell your cycle, it has a very meaningful part of what will happen tomorrow. So what is happening is already happening. But what I'm looking at, what can happen tomorrow, depends on me, depends on you, depends on them, depends on whoever is involved or seeing it. And that's what I can say.
Hi, Hyppolite. This is Deborah Mitchell from Native Black Lives Matter. How are you today?
Good. Yeah, always good.
Yes, we want you to come speak to us in June, if you don't mind. The Black Lives Matter is based on what happened to George Floyd here in America.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I worked with Oxfam America for 10 years. I was the African regional assistant. And we did projects. You were talking about project work and stuff. Do you work with any NGOs, Hyppolite?
NGOs, I haven't worked with any NGOs because we started as being an NGO. So we haven't got, again, the human resource within my capacity has not been enough to go. And I wanted to start with what we can do without depending on, because the NGO money thing is really going hard. And so I said, what can we do by the heart? And now I see that in the future, I'll be working with different institutions. Yes.
So where do you get your funding? I'm sorry if I'm asking you again. I had jumped in.
I said that until 2020, everything has been funded through my 20% of salary. From everything I've been doing. I've worked with the British Council, I've done some consultancies, and that every 20% of my salary was put in that. But since 2020, some individuals started donating, including people on this meeting today.
Oh, okay, so thank you. So let me know when you're available. We're glad to have you.
I got your message and your email.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, Deb. Carrie, I saw you had your hand up.
Oh, sorry, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. It's great to hear your story once again. I just want to sort of have you maybe illustrate how far Rwanda has come in the last 30 years. So I think just a little prelude to that. Some of you might not recognize or know just how small the country of Rwanda is. If your computer screen was turned on, or if the continent of Africa was turned on its side, and you put your pinky nail there, that's about how large the country of Rwanda is. But it really seems like it's come a long ways in the last 30 years. I mean, there was a couple months ago, I think 2 successive weeks on 60 Minutes, there was a story that featured the country of Rwanda and how far it's come. Last week, Leslie and I were up in Maine in a very tiny remote town. In the place we stayed at, we got there and checked in. They had coffee from Rwanda, a different coffee than what you had provided me before. But why don't you talk a little bit of just how far, what Kigali is like now. It's a big modern city that's really come so far, and just sort of what the country itself is like. I should say it's good to see Yvonne there. Thank you for.
Ippo, do you want to respond to anything Carrie said, or should we
I'll probably go with we can take two, and then I respond to both of them.
Okay, so Yvonne, good to see you.
Well, thanks very much, and really good to be here just to listen to my good friend Hyppolite. Thanks for inviting me, Carol. Hyppolite and I were together at the Yale World Fellows 2020, and have become part of a very special group of people. Hyppolite, I think one of the questions that I have always had whenever I listen to you speak and just hear the most amazing disposition and temperament that you have towards what happened not only in Rwanda, but what happened to you personally. I'm wondering what your biggest lesson has been in terms of the things you have learned about genocides. I know that you have been in touch with different research centers and research resources that have been put together by academics. And when you look at just the history and the happenstance of genocides and what you experienced, what's the biggest lesson that you would say, for mankind, for humanity? Because I think it seems we have a propensity for genocide. It seems like we go through these years and these cycles, and suddenly, we bring it back, we do it again, and we never seem to learn. I love the fact that in Rwanda, the big call to action around remembering the genocide has been never again. So just to try and pick your mind about, as you look at this expanse of time and the history of genocides, what do you think the biggest lesson is, or what do you think the biggest takeaway is in terms of just mankind just becoming aware of what happens, in genocides?
Wow. big question, but yeah, Kerry, you mentioned about Rwanda being small. Yes, it's small. I think it's big in terms of history, values, and communities. It's very, very big. If you consider what happened in 21st century is, the historical experience of genocide is it's big in itself. But what it has come is also bigger than anything. Recovering from zero, the numbers I was talking about in 100 days, and then you go where we are, where I now walk and walk freely 2 a.m. in the city of Kigali, not feeling that someone will look at me and say, you are tall, you are tall like this, and then you deserve to be killed. You have this kind of height or what? Your nose are like this or like that, and I need to kill you. The walking in a country where I don't have to worry about that is amazing. And the lessons that Rwanda has in itself as a country, we have learned that tragedy is violence exists, and violence will probably exist as long as people exist, as long as power exists, as long as one wants to control the other, men and women. Men wants to control women, and as long as we know that the US wants to be the world police, or the NATO wants to be the superpower and control the resources, or the whatever goes on in other countries, as long as all that exists, maybe violence will never go away. But what I'm trying to say is, when the lessons I've learned, everyone among ourselves, everyone has a responsibility. Everyone is accountable for what they do. If you are a president, if you are a simple person like me, or if you are a coffee with purpose leader, or whatever you do, wherever you are, I think your activity counts towards what we say every day is a success or is a problem. Violence, it lives among people, and it starts with one person. It starts with an idea, greed. It starts with greed. It starts with power, wanting to be on power. Again, today I ask people, why are you a leader? Why are you? Well, yes, you are a president. If I was to meet world leaders, I would ask them one question: why are you a leader? Why are you Russian president? Why are you the United States president? Why? Sometimes it will be, I wonder if really that why question is what brings them to where they are. Again, I ask the same question about myself. And I think we should always look at the why before we do anything in every life, because the word I'm saying today might be something that will be used, or that will be, important tomorrow. So we have to be to understand the role of leaders as mobilizing, not polarizing. And that is very important today. If you consider yourself as a leader, as a woman leader, everyone is a leader. But the leadership role in the life of a person, I think it's mobilizing. Whatever you're mobilizing towards, and whoever you are mobilizing, remember what is it that you're mobilizing for, and why are you doing it? I think that's the biggest lesson as a person. And I think that's also a biggest lesson for countries. If all these big organizations, UN, whatever we can go on, why are you the one you are? Why do you do what you do? What do you want? What are you trying to achieve? Is it just power? Is it just being in a position where you can judge whatever? I think it's important to understand that, and that's a big lesson. And if all systems would ask themselves that question, why am I doing what I'm doing? I think the world would be a better place, but I'm afraid we don't ask that question a lot.
I have a follow-up to that. How do you pronounce your name, please?
Hippo or Hyppolite.
Hyppolite.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up to your answer. So what would you say would be your why? Or what would you say would be a good why? Because as a leader, I'm a leader too, in the Native for Black Lives Matter. And why I mobilize my team is trying to bring to light the plight of Black people in America and try to get justice, shine a light that Black lives matter. So I'm just saying that's my why. And that made, when you asked that question, it made me think about why and not more importantly, how. So I'm just giving you some feedback as to my why, and just want to hear. I missed some of this topic, so I want to say I like the idea of the peace center. I believe that we do need world peace. We do need that. And, like look at Putin, for instance, he wants the power. His why is all wrong. So whenever I believe myself is to forge, collaborate, I don't know the word.
You got it. Yeah.
We got it.
Is to collaborate, because I think what Evan was saying was so profound also, because the genocide that happened in Rwanda and the genocide that's happening now in Ukraine, right? It's the same to me. It's humans that are being, destroyed for some unknown, reason, but we have to find what connects us all. What is the common thread to all this? What's the common thread? And to me, I think it's the humanity. We all are touched. We all are hurt by this, by war and by suffering, and we all try to work together, but I think I really want to see you come to meet with me and talk more about this, because
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to the recording again.
Yeah. Why I said it at the beginning of this meeting. I said that all things I do is because of my experiences, and why I do what I do. I think after surviving the genocide, I don't wish a world in which I wish to live in a world in which no child hear their mothers or fathers being killed. No child hear the screaming voices of women being raped or killed around in the community, or whether on television or films. My why is also that I want to live in a world where no child see their fathers being killed like I have. And that's why I do the things I do. I know it's still happening, and it probably will always happen, but my ears heard the sounds that no child should hear, and my eyes saw what no child should see. And that's why I do what I do. No matter what, whether I'm hungry or fall asleep or wake, I do everything that could prevent at least one child, mine or yours, to hear or to see what I have seen as a child.
And I believe you're blessed. I believe that God has anointed you and appointed you to get this message out. And I pray for you, and I ask God to help you and send you helpers.
We connect more.
Yes, we will connect.
So to me, what you've just said, Hippo, is it really highlights the challenge. As you say, your entire life, what you do every day is formed by the experiences that you had that were horrific. And we wouldn't wish that horrific experience on anybody. But I dare say, for so many of us that have had it so easy, it's easy not to be motivated to such profound action as you've taken with your life. And so how do we move us, the rest of the easy masses of the world that haven't experienced the horrors, to also take profound action?
There are people who have never had hunger, but who are donating food to the hungry.
Yep.
There are people who have never been raped, but who are putting their voices out and saying, stop rape. There are people who are not the black or people of color or not, who are people who are white, who are against white supremacy or who are against racism. There are people who have never been in power, but who points out what the powerful people are doing is wrong. And I think no one sees. So the problem that I was talking about of mobilization is also mobilizing yourself. It's also mobilizing myself to say, well, honestly, we all watch news, we read, but sometimes you will hear a leader saying, you know what, I want to have those kind of refugees because they are ours. You see, that's already something that says, I am not looking at others' experiences. So it doesn't require someone to understand that losing a person is a horrible experience. It doesn't require any more of one's people to be killed to understand that it's a horrible experience. I understand what I mean, the experiences are different, but that, and also the socialization process, the mobilization process, where how do you learn to forgive people who have killed other people when you are in a state where the death penalty is still in place? How do you learn to forgive? It's that mobilization, those things that we don't know, we don't understand, but the socialization and politicization process that we give to our people, to our children, to our thing, it's in place, and dismantle those things, asking why do we still have death penalty? Why do we still have this and that? Why do we still have misogyny? Why do we still have that? And that's the beginning. So it's not about experience, because we all went through traumatic experiences one way or another, differently, collectively, but individually, yes. So we have to look back in our lives and see, but it doesn't require us more to see the wrong things that are happening. It doesn't require us to feel the pain or to feel more pain, or it doesn't require anyone else to feel more pain to understand that pain is pain. Sorry, it might be too abstract, but I think also we are influenced by the systems, by the things in place, but individually, what do we do? If we see something's wrong, how do we go about it? Yeah.
I'll just jump in for a second because Yvonne's going to jump off. I want to put in a plug for him. I've gotten to know him as well, and he's has a different story, but to me, and just as an amazing story, Hyppolite has to share. And you're going to speak on June 6th. Is that correct, Yvonne?
Excellent.
Okay.
Really,
yeah, correct. June 6th, I'll be with you guys. So looking forward to being with you. But thank you for having me today. People are always amazing
Before
to
you go,
interact with you.
Yeah, you're doing tremendous work. You're doing amazing work, and probably he has gone through different lots of things. I don't want to spoil your future talk, but you are a great guy and great brother. Good to see you there. There's a reason why you are in US, not in your native Zimbabwe, and you know what has been happening there. He's a great leader than probably many of the world. So you will have a lot to hear from him. A good experience. Good to see you, brother.
Great.
So, Hippo, I just wanted to follow up on some of your comments that you made a minute ago. One thing that has really struck me is kind of, I don't know if it's the balance is the word, but individual actions and sort of societal actions. What came to my mind as you were talking is our youngest son, when he was in college, had an internship working with teenagers who had been in homes where they were abused or neglected. They had been removed from their homes and were living in a group home. And our son worked there, and it was heartbreaking. The stories of these kids, through no fault of their own, had their parents had died or overdosed or were in jail or had run off, just all kinds of things. But a comment that our son made just has always stayed with me. Before that job, he worked at Target as an overnight stock kid, and restocking the stores and moving boxes around. And he made more money working at Target than he made with as a non-college graduate than he made as somebody who majored in psychology, worked with kids. He made more money at Target. He said, "We value boxes more than kids." And that just always struck me. And that's really a societal thing, that we need to come together and say, these kids have, if we supported them and their families more, even if you only look at it for the money, it's cheaper to do that than to pay for all these services. It's also the right thing to do, to help these kids before, and their families, before they get in these situations where we pay their caretakers less than we pay guys who move boxes around. And so I think it's an interesting thing to think about. We as individuals can try to be our, kind and respectful and all, but we also, I think, need to work as a society to kind of shift our priorities. And that just came through to me as you were speaking, that there's kind of two fronts I think we need to be working on.
Absolutely. I think, yes. So if you wonder how how the US sustain their kind of values, you go on, family, material possessions, things you tell your kid at the beginning. And maybe if you were to do, there's a study that was made by the World Economic Forum. It's on the website, 25 most valued to 2025 values of the world, something like that. If you look at the scale of what we teach, what values in our societies have, you will, yes, you will see that there are things that are common, there are things that are embedded in our culture. But, imagine, where did Trump learn his values, or his whoever he is today? It's through the party. It's through the party, and you go through the business, through the things, through these systems. If you were to wonder why all values we talk about, free speech, we talk about democracy, we talk about all these things, how are they sustained through the community? They're sustained through the Ivy League universities. They're sustained through the political manifesto that people do. And yes, it's a lot. And that's why the leaders and the power of the people who have the system in place, they have a lot, they influence a lot to what we do, because we are made up by what we hear, what we see, what we listen, what we do, and it's important. So individually, it's important that us as individuals start to challenge, start to think about, oh, why do I see the media? Why do I watch only one media? Why am I being provided by one way media only? That it's important. So we have to kind of be open and learn and see, and yeah, the values that we transmit are important, but the systems are there. Hopefully your son will be able to be in the parliament tomorrow and say, well, don't value. It would be, he might be called a socialist, but that's okay.
Oh, that's funny
Yeah.
you say that, because he says that.
Yeah.
He's finishing up law school and hoping to work in the system to make it better. So that he was inspired by this job to, he saw this system and he said, I've got to work to fix this. So yeah, maybe you'll hear about him in the future.
So Pat, I know you've been patiently having your hand up, and I want to be mindful of the time. We're already well past 10. So maybe after Pat's question, we'll try to bring things to a close. Although, gosh, I mean, we've definitely been enjoying hearing from you, and a very inspiring and thought-provoking conversation here. But Pat, what did you want to get in? You're on mute, Pat. You got to come off.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to mention the people that we have taken our garden that we have at Common Street, and we have renamed it in your honor too. We call it the Garden of Hope and Peace.
Oh,
and
good.
We've done that in the last couple of years. Sally and Carol and some other people have been helping with that. But I have a quick question for you, and I don't know, you probably can't answer it in the time we have, but we struggle with so much, especially here in America, we're so affluent. And we have what Doug sometimes called fire hoses of information that we have to process all the time. And there's a lot of misinformation. That's a whole new business, apparently, that just is tearing us apart in so many ways. So I'm just curious what your advice is on our culture of misinformation.
Huge. Huge. I think even if we watch the news, it's also individual responsibility. Sometimes we try to escape our individual responsibility. No one understands. No one sees. Again, no one would. Why do we believe a journalist who says, "Oh, those are terrorists"? See. We say that and we believe them when we know. Why do I have to believe that people from one country are Muslim? Are Muslim or from one religion? Why do I have to believe that a Muslim is a religion of whatever they call it? When I know, when I have a Muslim friend who is the best friend. Why it's individual responsibility to also look at things and say that's Nelson Mandela was on the US terrorist list until 2008. Someone to believe that, you go around and say, oh yeah, so because the journalist or because the government said it, yeah, he's a terrorist. He was on a watch, one of the, it was on a list of terrorists to really watch carefully. He didn't have visa to come to the US after he was released from prison. He was given special permission to come to the US because he was still on the list of terrorists. So you go on these things and say, what is my individual responsibility to learn? Empathy, of course, we learn, we see the news, I come back again to the individual responsibility to imagine what we want, what we feel. Again, remember, touch yourself and say, is it what I'm listening to? Can I believe that? Okay, that what I have seen in a video, someone killing people, calling them whatever they are, is anything good because they are of my system, because they are soldiers or anything? Just imagine. It comes back to responsibility and to individual responsibility. I think the system will be there, individuals will be there, news, misinformation will be there, but the individual responsibility to think, to imagine, to come back to our values and life is still there. But there's no way we can stop the misinformation apart from through our empathy and what we learn and what we know is bad already to say that's bad, to address it as bad.
That's an amazing answer and a great close, I think, to our session. Ian, I see you just joined us. You have to watch the recording of this morning's session. You're going to want to hear everything Hippo had to say. Really good conversation. Yeah. Oh, so thank you all for joining us. Thank you Hippo for coming. Good luck in all your future endeavors. I'm glad you shared that link. Hopefully you'll see some support, financial support coming your way. And Ricky, were you able to confirm during the session whether Metro?
No.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, I was so in tune with Italy that I couldn't sort of draw myself away. But
Well, that's
one
fine.
thing before I lose the microphone, I wanted to ask Hyppolite about the role of the truth and reconciliation process that was the path that the country took to try and face itself and what it had done, whether Tutsi or Hutu. That process, as it was done in South Africa, and as it was done in Germany, and as it was done in Rwanda, it seems to me that that process is the foundation for any new visions of people in those countries and the road to a better truth for that country and for the world.
I'll quickly respond quickly. So yes, I think I come back to the value of the collective values in a community. I think after the genocide, some people in the genocide in Rwanda, some people thought, well, the genocide against the Tutsi happened. What is possible is to have one part for in a country. One part will be for the Tutsi and another part will be for Hutu. Some people suggested that, of course, but Rwanda believed, the Rwandan value is like, we have to be together, and the grassroots, there was what is called grassroots court. And the grassroots courts are nothing more than truth and reconciliation. It was there before the genocide. And so that we have to go back and fetch what are the values of the community. That was part of it. And I think if we were to go with the values of whatever is someone in the US would say, me being called a cockroach, a snake, an enemy to be killed in my own country by the neighbor who call themselves the power holder, the power seekers. That would probably, someone would call it the free speech. You are seeing it by people who are buying the
Yeah.
So someone would say anti-Semitism is a free speech, whatever they say. And so those are things, but they're not. So the values and how we sustain the values and how we go back and say, yes, what do we have in our community as a collective community that we can draw from and build or rebuild what has been broken? And that's actually what I'm doing with trust. How do we rebuild trust in post-violence communities? That's the research I'm doing. And I think, yes, the values that are embedded in our culture that are good, they can build, because every community have their history. And so they have their values that can help them to do better.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right. Well, I think we'll close. Thank you again so much for the talk, and enjoy the rest of the day and week.
Thank you. Enjoy the 1st of May.
Yes.
Thank you so
Right.
much for sharing.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
We-
Okay.